She screamed assault in the middle of a grocery store, and I nearly lost everything because of a gallon of milk. It was one of those evenings when you can almost feel the day dying on your shoulders, the hum of old fluorescent lights, the faint squeak of shopping carts, the smell of floor wax hanging in the air. I was standing in the 10 items or less lane, holding a gallon of milk and a small bouquet of cheap carnations. My son, Leo, drinks milk like it's oxygen, and the flowers, well, they were for Tanya. Not for any reason in particular, just one of those you deserve something pretty today moments. That was my life right there on the black rubber belt. Milk and flowers, simple, steady. I was one beep away from freedom when I heard it, squeak thump, that uneven wheel of doom every store seems cursed with. I didn't even have to turn around to know trouble was incoming. And then she appeared. Pink blouse, white cardigan that looked expensive enough to have its own mortgage, and a cart piled like a mountain of organic everything. She didn't glance at me, didn't even slow down. She just cut right in front, her cart bumping the divider separating my stuff from empty space. The cashier, a teenager named Brenda, blinked like she was seeing this for the 100th time that shift and her soul had already clocked out. I tried to stay calm. "Ma'am, this is the 10-item lane," I said softly, pointing up at the glowing red number 7. "You've got a bit more than that." She turned, slow, measured. Her eyes swept me head to toe, my steel-toed boots, my work shirt still dusted from the construction site, my tired face. And she smiled that kind of smile that isn't really a smile. "I'm in a hurry," she said, like those words were a magic key to bend the rules of the universe. Then she started unloading her mountain. Kale, quinoa, pasta, things I couldn't even pronounce. In her rush, her elbow clipped my milk. I caught it before it fell. She didn't even blink. "Oops," she said flatly, and then met my eyes. "You gonna cry about it?" I felt heat crawl up my neck. Years of carrying rebar and concrete have made me a big guy. The kind people automatically assume is trouble. I know that look in her eyes, the one that says she knows it too. She wanted me to snap. My fists clenched, my pride screamed for me to speak up. But then my phone buzzed. My boss's name, Quinn Foreman, flashed across the screen. I answered, keeping one eye on her. "Fisher," I said. "Mark," Quinn's voice was gravel over static. "We've got the downtown pour this weekend. Double time if you want it." Double time, mortgage money, new cleats for Leo, a dinner out with Tanya where we don't check the prices on the right side of the menu. "I'm in," I said instantly. "Good," he replied, then his tone shifted. "But listen, the client's connected. Inspector's his brother-in-law. I need clean heads. No yelling, no fights, no attitude. You get into any kind of trouble before Saturday, I give the shift to Johnson. You hear me? Keep your nose clean." The call ended. Those words hung in my ears like a warning bell. No trouble. When I looked up, Karen Collins was watching me. That smug little smirk told me she'd heard every word. "Problem?" she asked, her voice dripping with false innocence. And suddenly, my $8 worth of milk and flowers felt like $1 million gamble. Because if I said what I wanted to say, if I let one word slip, I could lose that weekend over time. The one thing keeping my family's head above water. I swallowed it. Every ounce of pride, every comeback, every "who do you think you are" died behind my clenched teeth. She turned her back, satisfied, slamming a carton of eggs onto the belt. Behind her, a young mom tried to squeeze through with a stroller. She looked exhausted, eyes ringed dark, hair pulled back in a messy bun, that half-awake look of someone just trying to make it through the day. One of her stroller wheels snagged the corner of Karen's overloaded cart. It was a soft bump, barely enough to make the pickles on top wobble, until one jar slipped, hit the floor, and shattered. The sound echoed like glass thunder. The baby startled awake and began to cry, a sharp, piercing wail that filled the aisle. The mom gasped, whispering, "I'm so sorry." But Karen didn't look at her. She turned toward me, her eyes lit with accusation. And before I could even take a breath, she pointed straight at me and screamed, "Assault! He pushed my cart. He's attacking me. He scared that baby." The word assault hit like a grenade. The entire checkout area froze. I hadn't moved a muscle, but I could already see it happening, the whispers, the phones half raised, the looks. A tired working man and an elegant woman. And me, standing there holding a gallon of milk, realizing one false accusation could cost me everything. And that's when I understood this wasn't about groceries anymore. This was about survival. The word hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. Assault. For a second, everything stopped. The conveyor belt, the chatter, even the music humming from the store speakers. All I could hear was the baby crying and the hum of the fluorescent lights above us. People turned. Phones lifted. And there I was, a big, sweaty construction worker holding a jug of milk, while this woman in a spotless white sweater screamed like she was being mugged. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Every instinct told me to shout, to deny it, to call her out for the liar she was. But Quinn's voice echoed in my head, no trouble. Any kind of mess, you're out. I unclenched my hands, took one careful breath, and said nothing. The mom with the stroller froze, her face pale with panic. She looked between us like a cornered rabbit, whispering, "It was me, I bumped the cart," but her voice barely carried over the chaos. Karen saw her opening. "You see," she shouted, pointing at me like she was presenting evidence. "He's threatening her too, somebody call security." Her tone had that shrill edge of manufactured fear, the kind that draws crowds faster than fire alarms. Within seconds, a young store manager came rushing over, the kind of kid who still looked like he should be bagging groceries instead of managing them. His name tag read Dave, and his face was already slick with nervous sweat. "Ma'am," he said, his voice cracking, "what seems to be the problem?" "The problem," Karen snapped, pointing at me again, "is that this man assaulted me and terrified this poor woman and her child." I raised both hands slowly, palms out. "That's not what happened," I said evenly. "Her cart was blocking the aisle. This lady's stroller hit it by accident, that's all." The mom nodded quickly. "He's right," she said, voice trembling. "It was me, not him." But Karen just laughed, a sharp, condescending laugh. "Oh, please, he probably intimidated her into saying that. Look at him." I saw the doubt flicker across the manager's face. He didn't know what to believe. I was big, dirty from a job site, and she looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine ad for yoga retreats. And in his eyes, the scales were already tilting. "Sir," he said carefully, "I'm going to have to ask you to wait here while we sort this out." He reached for his walkie-talkie. "Front end, I need a code 3 at lane 7, he muttered. The cashier, poor Brenda, looked like she wanted to vanish into the floor. A tall man in a gray polo appeared a minute later, moving with a kind of quiet authority that made everyone step back. No security badge, no gun, just a calm, professional stare that said, "I've seen worse." His name tag read Marcus, loss prevention. He didn't look at Karen first. He looked up, scanning the ceiling, the corners, the angles. I followed his gaze and saw it too, the small black dome of a security camera right above us, my silent witness. Hope flickered in my chest. Marcus approached, voice calm. "All right, folks, let's take a breath," he said. "Nobody's getting arrested in a grocery line today. We'll check the footage and sort it out." Karen folded her arms like a queen waiting for her judgment. "Good," she snapped, "because that man—" He held up a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "Ma'am, I'll review the video before we make assumptions." His tone was even but firm, the voice of a man who didn't play favorites. For the first time since this mess started, I felt a little air in my lungs. I pulled out my phone and dialed Tanya. She answered on the second ring. "Hey, you on your way?" My voice came out low, steady only by sheer force. "Something happened, Tan, at the store." I told her everything in a rush, the line cutting, the milk, the accusation. By the time I finished, she was silent for a long beat. Then she said quietly, "Okay, Mark, don't lose your temper. Let them handle it. The truth's on your side. Just breathe." She always had that effect, grounding me when my anger wanted to take the wheel. I kept the phone in my hand like a lifeline. Marcus motioned to the manager. "Let's pull the camera feed from C7, he said, then to us, "Please wait right here." Karen smirked. "Perfect. I can't wait to see his face when you prove me right." She didn't know the camera had caught every second, her cutting the line, her elbow hitting my milk, her turning that rage on me. As they disappeared toward the office, silence settled over the aisle again. The baby's cries faded to soft hiccups. The smell of broken pickles clung to everything, sharp, acidic, inescapable. Karen stood there, tapping her foot, pretending to be calm. Brenda kept glancing at me like she knew I was the good guy but couldn't say it out loud. I stood still, arms crossed, eyes on the floor, trying not to let the anger eat me alive. 10 minutes crawled by, every second felt like an hour, and then I saw them coming back, the manager and Marcus. Dave's face looked different now. No fear, just shame. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "we reviewed the footage. It's clear the stroller bumped your cart, not him. There was no assault." Karen blinked. "That's ridiculous. Your cameras must be broken." Marcus's tone stayed flat. "They're not, and there's audio too. The store mic picked up everything you said, including the accusation." The color drained from her face. He turned to me. "Sir, you're clear to check out. Sorry for the delay." For a second, I thought it was over. But as Karen's lips tightened and her eyes went cold, I knew she wasn't done yet. People like her never are. The tension didn't drain out of the air right away. It just changed shape. Karen stood frozen, her mouth open in disbelief, while the rest of the store tried to pretend they weren't watching. The air was heavy with that mix of vinegar from the spilled pickles and the hum of gossip waiting to explode. Dave, the manager, looked like a man who wanted to crawl inside a cereal display and disappear. Marcus, calm as a stone, crossed his arms and said, "We're done here." But I was not yet. "Actually," I said, keeping my tone mild, "why don't we let her go first? She was in such a hurry after all." Dave blinked. Sure, that's fine." Karen turned toward me, eyes narrowing. She wanted to read the sarcasm, but I kept my expression as blank and polite as a customer service smile. She muttered something under her breath and started unloading again, faster this time, slamming items onto the belt like each one had personally insulted her. Brenda started scanning, her scanner beeping nervously in rhythm with the pounding in my chest. I watched each item roll forward, the kale, the gluten-free crackers, the overpriced cheese. Then I saw it. Her bunch of kale didn't have a tag. I leaned slightly toward Brenda. "Excuse me," I said, calm and helpful. "That kale doesn't have a barcode, might need a price check." Karen's head snapped toward me. "It's $5.99, she barked. I said softly. "Just want to make sure, store policy right." Brenda sighed but nodded. "Price check on kale," she muttered into her headset. The intercom crackled to life. "Price check on organic kale, lane 7. It was a small thing. A nothing, really. But the look on Karen's face, the twitch of fury she couldn't hide, made the minutes that followed feel almost meditative. The crowd behind us began to grumble. 2 minutes stretched to 5 before the stock boy came jogging up with the price. $5.99, he said flatly. "Of course it is," she hissed. I smiled faintly, just good to confirm. The scanner beeped again, and for a moment it almost felt normal, until one of her coupons failed to scan. Brenda frowned. This one's not going through, ma'am. It says expired." Karen's tone went icy, "Then override it." "I can't, ma'am," Brenda said carefully. "It expired yesterday." Karen turned toward me as if daring me to speak. I tilted my head and said with practiced innocence, "Maybe try typing the code manually. Sometimes the system just needs a little help." Brenda sighed again, typing the long string of numbers as Karen's face turned a deeper shade of red. The code failed again. "System says no," Brenda said finally. Karen snatched the coupon back like it was a personal betrayal. The line behind us groaned audibly. The woman at the end whispered to her husband, "All this in the express lane." I said nothing. I just stood there with my milk and flowers, calm as still water. Finally, the last item rolled across the scanner, a bag of artisanal coffee beans. Brenda hit total. "That'll be $203.48. Karen swiped her card, muttering something about incompetent staff. I glanced casually at her overflowing cart and spoke again, my tone light but deliberate. "Oh, I think you might have picked up my milk by mistake." She blinked. "What?" "The 2%, I said. "Blue cap, pretty sure that's mine." Her voice rose. "It's not in here." I looked at Brenda, still polite. "Would you mind checking, just in case?" Brenda hesitated but leaned over and peeked into the cart. "Doesn't look like— Oh, wait. There's 1 gallon here that doesn't have a barcode on her order." Karen's jaw dropped. "That's mine." "Oh," I said, keeping my voice soft. "Could you just void it to be sure? I'd hate for someone to pay for the wrong thing." Brenda, clearly wishing she could vanish, followed procedure and voided the milk. The register beeped loudly, one more little dagger in Karen's pride. She paid, she bagged, and every second she spent doing it, I could see her composure cracking. Her hands shook as she crammed eggs on top of bread, crushing chips and mangling a loaf of gluten-free bread. When her receipt finally printed, she snatched it so hard the paper tore. "Have a great night," Brenda mumbled weakly. Karen didn't reply. She just glared at me, a silent promise that this wasn't over, and started to push her cart toward the exit. I stood there, finally exhaling. The smell of vinegar was still thick in the air. Brenda glanced up and whispered, "I'm sorry about all that, sir." I shook my head. "Not your fault." But something in Karen's stride caught my eye, that rigid, defiant walk of someone who refuses to lose, even when the scoreboard says otherwise. She wasn't heading for the regular doors. She was veering left, toward the bright red sign over the double doors that read "Emergency Exit Only, Alarm will sound." I almost laughed. She thought it was fake. She thought that rule, like every other rule, didn't apply to her. A few people turned to watch as she rammed her cart straight at the door and shoved the bar. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Not a blaring alarm, but a sharp, relentless warning, high-pitched and humiliating. The doors didn't open. Magnetic lock. She pushed harder. The chirping continued. Heads turned from every lane. Conversations stopped. Marcus appeared beside her like a ghost, his calm voice slicing through the sound. "Ma'am, that's an emergency exit. Please step away." Her face went crimson. "I'm a paying customer. I just want to leave." "The main exit's right over there," he said, pointing calmly back toward the checkout lines. Phones came up again. Whispers rippled across the crowd. For the first time, Karen realized the audience wasn't on her side. She turned, trembling with fury. For a moment she looked right at me, and what I saw wasn't embarrassment. It was hate, the kind that doesn't fade. She pushed her cart toward the front doors again, her head low, the chirping fading behind her like a soundtrack to her own downfall. And in that moment, as the crowd's murmurs filled the silence, I thought maybe, just maybe, that would be the end of it. But I should have known better. People like her don't walk away, they reload. The chirping finally stopped, but the silence that followed was worse. Every pair of eyes in that grocery store seemed to follow her as she marched back toward the front, humiliated, furious, and vibrating with that kind of anger that only comes when entitlement meets a wall it can't climb. Her face was red, jaw locked, hands gripping the cart so tight her knuckles looked white. I thought that was it, that she'd swallow her pride, leave, and go back to whatever mansion or HOA meeting she crawled out of. But the universe wasn't done with her, not yet. Halfway to the doors, she spotted him, a teenager by the magazine rack, shaggy hair, hoodie, phone in hand. He was filming, not hiding it either, just holding up his phone with that smirk only teenagers can manage, half amusement, half disbelief. For Karen, it was gasoline on an open fire. "What do you think you're doing?" she snapped, her voice slicing through the air like a whip. "You stop that right now. You have no right to record me. Give me that phone." The kid lowered the phone slightly but didn't flinch. "It's a public place, lady," he said, calm as a lake. Marcus stepped in, still composed. "He's right, ma'am. Store policy allows filming in public areas as long as it's not disruptive." Something broke in her face right then. It wasn't just anger anymore, it was desperation. Like she couldn't stand being seen, couldn't stand that her own actions were now her mirror. Her voice cracked. "Delete it, do you hear me?" She lunged forward, reaching for his phone. Her hand swiped at the air, missed, then hit his arm, not hard, but enough. Enough to make the kid stumble back. Enough to change everything. Marcus moved like lightning. He stepped in between them, his tone still calm, but now edged with command. "Ma'am, that's enough. You need to calm down." She tried to protest, but he wasn't listening. He shifted into professional mode, that quiet, unshakable firmness that says you've crossed a line. "Step back," he ordered, "right now." I stood frozen at the checkout, milk in one hand, flowers in the other. Every muscle in my body screamed to intervene, to protect that kid, to stop this before it got worse. But I heard Quinn's voice in my head again, no trouble, no fighting. So I stayed still. I did the hardest thing I've ever done, nothing. I planted my feet, hands visible, eyes calm. My entire body became an apology for being big in the wrong place at the wrong time. Karen kept shouting about her rights, about being a victim, as Marcus guided her cart aside. Her voice trembled now, the kind of trembling that comes from realizing the ground beneath you is crumbling. And then the sliding doors at the front opened again. 2 police officers stepping in, uniforms crisp, expressions unreadable. The atmosphere changed instantly. The crowd fell silent, the phones lowered. Even Karen froze mid-rant when she saw them. For the first time, her tone softened, all performance now. "Officers, thank God," she said, clutching her chest like she was faint. "This man," she pointed straight at me, "assaulted me earlier, and now this boy's been filming me. The store security even grabbed me." She was trying to rewrite the whole story before it was even finished. The taller cop, a woman with sharp eyes and a steady presence, looked from her to me, then to Marcus. "All right," she said, calm but firm. "Let's take it one at a time, sir. What's your side?" I took a slow breath. Tanya's voice echoed in my head, "Stay calm, just the facts." "I didn't touch anyone," I said. "The store has video of everything. The security footage cleared me earlier. The kid was filming." She tried to grab his phone. The teenager spoke up from behind Marcus. "Yeah, I got it on camera. She hit me." He showed them the phone, the screen still glowing with the paused video. Marcus nodded. "He's right. The store's cameras confirm it. We've already logged the incident." The officers exchanged a glance, the kind of look professionals share when the puzzle just solved itself. Karen's confidence cracked like thin ice. "They're lying," she hissed. "All of them. This is harassment." But no one was buying it anymore. Not the customers, not the staff, not even the air around her. The second officer, younger, quieter, looked at her with calm pity. "Ma'am, we're not making arrests tonight, but we'll be filing a report. You might want to think about your statement carefully." That's when I knew it was over. Not the story, that part was still coming, but the moment, the tipping point. Her voice faltered. Her hands trembled on the cart. She tried to save face, muttering about poor service and legal action, but no one was listening. As the officers took statements, I finally paid for my milk and flowers. $8.42. My receipt printed neat and final, like punctuation at the end of a very long sentence. When I stepped outside, the night air hit me, cool, clean, full of that faint hum of distant traffic. I took a long breath and thought it was done. I was wrong. Because the next morning, Tanya woke me with her tablet in hand and a look that made my stomach drop. "Mark," she said quietly, "you need to see this." She turned the screen toward me, our HOA's neighborhood Facebook page. And right there, top of the feed, hundreds of comments deep, was a post from Karen Collins. A blurry photo she'd taken of me from behind as I left the store. The caption read, "Beware of this man, aggressive, threatening, and dangerous. He attacked me and nearly hurt a baby at Supermart last night. Please be careful. We don't need people like this in our community." My full name was written in the comments. Someone even said, "I think he lives on Elm Drive." I felt the blood drain from my face. It wasn't just a lie anymore. It was a public execution in pixels. My stomach twisted as I stared at the screen. There it was, my name, my neighborhood, my face blurred in motion as I left the store. And underneath it, a thread of comments that felt like a noose tightening. "Unbelievable. Keep your kids away from this guy. He looks dangerous. Each line hit harder than the last. Tanya sat beside me on the bed, her expression calm but eyes sharp. The kind of focus I'd only ever seen when she was handling one of Leo's school crises or dealing with the power company. She's trying to destroy you, she said softly, but we're not going to let her. I wanted to storm out that second, to march across the street to Karen's house and demand she take it down. But Tanya's hand on my arm stopped me. Mark, she said, her voice steady. That's what she wants. You show up angry, she wins. We fight this smart with proof. Her calm cut through the fog in my head. She opened her laptop and pulled up a blank document. First things first, she said. Receipt. I reached for my wallet, hands still trembling. It's in here somewhere. I found the crumpled slip, faint ink reading 9:14 p.m. She nodded. Perfect. That's our timestamp. That's when you checked out. She started typing, her fingers moving fast, her tone professional. We'll respond right under her post. No insults, no anger, just facts. When she was done, she read it aloud. My husband, Mark Fisher, was at Supermart last night. He checked out at 9:14 p.m. according to his receipt. He was the subject of false accusations, which were disproven by store security footage reviewed by management and the Riverside Police. Anyone with questions can confirm this with the store manager. No exclamation marks, no fury, just steady truth. She hit post. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the notification bell started pinging. 1, 2, 5, 10 replies. A few people defended Karen at first. She's a good neighbor, she wouldn't lie. But then came one that made Tanya's eyes light up. Hi, this is Sarah. I was the woman with the stroller. I saw everything. Karen's story is completely false. I exhaled for the first time all morning. Sarah described how her stroller had accidentally bumped Karen's cart, how Karen had screamed and blamed me, how I'd been calm, kind even, trying to soothe her baby. Her comment hit like a hammer. You could almost feel the shift, sympathy draining from Karen's side like water from a cracked bucket. But Tanya wasn't done. Who else was there? She asked. Anyone we know? I frowned, thinking back. Then it hit me, our neighbor Nate. Retired guy, lives 2 houses down, spends more time polishing his car than driving it. He mentioned going to the auto parts store next to the Supermart last night, I said. Call him. Nate answered on the first ring. Mark, everything all right? Not really, I said, explaining the mess in a few short sentences. You still got that fancy dash cam that records even when parked. You bet I do, he said proudly, front and rear. Can I stop by? 10 minutes later, Nate was in my driveway, laptop under one arm, coffee in the other. He opened a video file. And there it was, clear as day. Timestamp 9:06 p.m. Karen's SUV pulling into a handicap space. No placard, no sticker, right outside Supermart. She marched in, phone in hand. Then, a few minutes later, the police arriving, escorting her out under the harsh glow of the parking lot lights. Tanya's voice was calm but thrilled. That's it, she whispered. That's our proof. Within an hour, she uploaded the clip straight to the HOA thread with the caption. For full context, this dashcam footage shows the events in the Supermart parking lot last night, matching the timeline on the store's cameras. It was surgical. No emotion, no commentary, just evidence. And that's when the tide broke. The comment section flipped. Fast, people who'd been silent before started speaking up. Wait, so she parked in a handicapped spot. I saw the same woman yelling at a cashier last month. Karen's been causing problems for years. Every few minutes, the notifications grew louder, meaner, but this time not for me. Karen tried to defend herself, typing long, rambling replies about being targeted and harassed, but every sentence she wrote only dug her deeper. The more she spoke, the smaller she sounded. By evening, the HOA admin locked the comments to prevent further hostility. But it didn't matter. The truth had already escaped. The post had over 200 shares. Every local forum, every neighborhood chat was buzzing. People were done believing her version. That night I sat on the porch with Tanya. The air smelled like rain on hot concrete. Leo was asleep inside, his toy truck scattered across the living room floor. I looked at her, the calm in her face, the quiet fire in her eyes, and felt something I hadn't since that night started. Gratitude. "You saved me," I said softly. She smiled faintly. "No, the truth saved you. I just gave it a microphone." We sat there in silence for a while, watching the porch light attract moths. Somewhere down the street, I heard Nate's old pickup start up. The internet storm was still raging, but the world around us felt still. And for the first time in days, I thought maybe, just maybe, the worst was behind us. But Tanya, ever the realist, said what I didn't want to hear. "Karen's not the kind to disappear quietly. She'll try something else." I looked out into the dark street, the quiet hum of cicadas filling the air. And deep down, I knew she was right. By the next afternoon, the internet wasn't just buzzing, it was howling. Our HOA Facebook page had turned into a wildfire. The screenshots of Karen's lies were everywhere, shared across neighborhood groups, local chats, even a few community drama pages that thrive on chaos. My name wasn't being dragged anymore, hers was. It was surreal. People I'd never met were tagging the Supermart corporate account, demanding answers, calling for her to apologize, praising Tanya's calm, factual response. That's when my phone rang. The number was local, unfamiliar. I almost didn't pick up. "Mr. Fisher," the voice said, tired but polite. "This is Dave from Supermart. I wanted to personally apologize for what happened the other night." I could hear the weight in his tone, that corporate exhaustion that comes from too many emails and not enough sleep. "I appreciate that," I said carefully. "It was a mess." "It's gotten worse," he admitted. "Corporate saw the online posts. They're getting flooded. We've already had to issue an internal statement confirming the footage exists and that you were cleared." "Good," I said. "Maybe now people will finally believe it." He paused. "Corporate wants to go one step further. They're authorizing a public community forum here at the store. We'll show the footage, explain what happened, and have a company lawyer talk about customer conduct. They want transparency for everyone to see the truth." I leaned back in my chair, the phone pressed tight to my ear. "You're serious?" "Yes, sir. We'd like you and your wife to attend, along with Ms. Collins. We'll invite any neighbors or witnesses who want to come. Cameras will be blurred for privacy. The goal is to set the record straight." It was bold, risky, but it was justice in motion. I hung up and told Tanya. She listened quietly, her face unreadable at first. Then she nodded once. "We'll go," she said. "If she wants attention, let her have it under the bright lights of the truth." That week crawled by. Each day, the tension grew thicker. Karen had gone silent online. Her original post was deleted, but screenshots were everywhere, impossible to erase. Then Friday evening, a new HOA post appeared. A carefully worded apology from her. "I regret that my recent experience at Supermart has caused confusion. Misunderstandings happen, and emotions were high. I never intended harm or false claims." It wasn't an apology, it was a PR bandage, and everyone saw through it. By Saturday evening, the Supermart cafe area had been transformed. Rows of metal folding chairs filled the floor, a large TV mounted on a portable stand at the front. I could smell coffee brewing, disinfectant, and nervous anticipation. The place was packed. Neighbors, shoppers, even people I recognized from Leo's school. Some were curious, some angry, all waiting. Tanya squeezed my hand as we took our seats in the front row. Across the aisle, Karen sat alone, no expensive cardigan this time. Just a simple gray hoodie and the kind of stiff, forced calm that only comes when you've rehearsed a story too many times. Dave, the manager, stood near the podium, his face pale but determined. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "Supermart believes in accountability and transparency. Tonight, we're going to show you the complete, unedited security footage from the night of the incident, along with verified customer audio. Afterward, our legal representative will discuss store policy and public conduct." He nodded to a technician. The screen flickered to life. For a few seconds, there was only grainy footage, the wide overhead view of the checkout area. The quiet hum of the store filled the room. Then the story played out. They saw me standing in line, 2 items, milk and flowers. They saw Karen's cart appear, bumping the divider. They saw her cut in, elbow my milk, dismiss me. The room chuckled softly. Then the stroller, the tiny bump, the jar falling, the shattering glass. And then her voice. Assault, he pushed my cart. The room gasped. Watching it on screen, knowing what was coming, made it even worse. There I was, motionless, hands at my sides, head slightly bowed. They saw me steady the stroller. They saw her scream. They heard the baby crying. The video continued. Her tantrum, the store manager arriving, Marcus stepping in. The emergency exit alarm chirping, her grabbing for the teenager's phone. When the footage ended, there was silence. Not the awkward kind. The heavy, soul-deep kind that only truth can bring. Karen sat frozen, her face drained of color. Then a soft voice broke the quiet. An older woman in the 3rd row stood up, leaning on a cane. I was there that night, she said, her voice trembling but clear. That young man didn't raise his voice once. He was patient. She was rude. She lied. Her words carried like a bell through the room. Dave cleared his throat. Thank you, ma'am. Then the store's attorney, a woman in a dark suit with sharp eyes, stepped up. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. Based on the evidence, she said, Supermart has reached a decision. The crowd leaned in. Effective immediately, Ms. Karen Collins is permanently banned from all Supermart locations nationwide. The Riverside Police Department has reviewed the footage and may pursue charges for false statements and physical contact with a minor. However, she paused, glancing at me and Tanya. In the spirit of restorative justice, an alternative resolution has been reached with the consent of the involved families. Karen's head jerked up. What? The lawyer continued, steady and cold. Ms. Collins will pay restitution for the staff time wasted during the incident, issue written apologies to those affected, and perform 20 hours of supervised community service here at this store. The crowd murmured, shocked. Her duties will include restocking shelves and collecting carts during peak hours, the lawyer finished. This is not humiliation, it's accountability. Karen's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. As the forum ended, the crowd applauded not loudly, but with the quiet conviction of people who just witnessed something rare. Real, unfiltered justice. And as we walked out into the cool night air, Tanya slipped her arm through mine. See, she whispered, the truth doesn't need anger, it just needs patience. I nodded, feeling the weight of weeks finally lifting. But a small part of me knew there was still one more chapter left, the quiet kind, the one that doesn't happen under bright lights or with a camera rolling. The kind that happens on ordinary days, in ordinary aisles. The kind that makes the lesson last. A few weeks passed. The heat broke, and the evenings turned cool again. Leaves along Elm Drive started curling at the edges, that dusty gold color that makes you want to rake the yard and forget the world for a while. Life somehow went back to ordinary. I was back on my job sites, patching drywall, fixing fences, hauling lumber under a late autumn sun. Tanya was teaching her art classes again. Leo had discovered dinosaurs and refused to sleep without his plastic triceratops. The storm had moved on, at least mostly. Every now and then someone would stop me at the coffee shop or wave from across the hardware store. Hey, you're that guy from Supermart? They'd say, half laughing, half awed. I'd nod, smile politely, pretend it was funny. But underneath, it still sat heavy. The memory of that night, that accusation, that word assault hanging in the air like smoke. Sometimes when I walked into a store, I'd catch myself scanning for cameras, for exits, for witnesses, old habits from one bad night. Tanya said it would fade. She was right. Slowly it did. Then one Saturday morning after Leo's soccer practice, I stopped by Supermart for groceries. Just a normal errand. The air was crisp, the lot half empty, the smell of baked bread drifting from the bakery section inside. I grabbed a cart, wiped the handle, and started down the produce aisle. Everything was calm until I saw her. At first, I wasn't sure. She was facing away, hair tied back, a faded cap pulled low. She wore the same gray hoodie I'd seen at the forum, and a yellow vest. Pushing a long line of carts, one after another. Karen. She didn't see me. She was too focused, her shoulders hunched, her steps heavy. The irony hit me like a quiet gust. The same woman who'd screamed about being harassed by staff was now part of it. I froze at the end of the aisle, torn between leaving and watching. A cart slipped from her grip, rolling sideways and bumping into a display of bottled water. She caught it, steadied it, muttered something under her breath. No one laughed, no one mocked her, but people noticed. That kind of noticing that stings more than words. A young mom passed with her toddler. The little boy waved at her, a pure, innocent wave. Karen hesitated, then smiled weakly and waved back. For the first time, I saw something human in her, exhaustion, maybe even regret. I should have walked away, but something in me needed closure, not revenge, just an ending that made sense. So I walked up slowly, stopping a few feet away. She looked up, recognition hit like a spark. Her grip on the carts tightened. Karen, I said softly. She flinched at her name. I'm not here to gloat, I added. Just saw you, wanted to say. She cut me off, her voice small but brittle. You won, all right? Is that what you want to hear? I shook my head. It's not about winning. She looked away, blinking fast. You don't know what it's like, she said quietly. To be humiliated in front of everyone, to have people filming you, talking about you like you're a monster. I took a slow breath. No, I said, I know exactly what that's like. She froze, the carts clanked softly against each other, that metallic rhythm filling the silence between us. I didn't post those things because I wanted attention, she said after a long moment. I just didn't know how to admit I was wrong. Her voice cracked on that last word. For the first time, I believed her, not because she deserved forgiveness, but because she finally sounded human. I nodded slowly. You hurt a lot of people, Karen, but the thing about truth is it doesn't vanish when we ignore it, it waits. Her eyes glistened. She looked down, whispering, I know. I could have said more, could have reminded her how she'd called me dangerous, how Tanya had to shield me from a wave of online hate, but I didn't. Some lessons don't need to be spoken twice. Instead, I stepped aside to let her pass. She pushed the line of carts toward the front doors, each wheel squeaking in imperfect rhythm. As she disappeared into the sunlight, I caught the faintest sound, the creak of metal, the hum of traffic outside, and something else beneath it. Relief. The kind that comes not from revenge, but release. When I reached the register, Brenda was still there, the same cashier from that night. She recognized me instantly, smiled wide. Hey, it's you, she said. Haven't seen you in a while. I smiled back, been keeping my head down. She laughed softly. Can't blame you. Oh, you should know that lady's been coming in every weekend, doesn't say much, just does her work and leaves. Good, I said quietly. Maybe that's her way of making it right. Brenda nodded. World's better when people own what they do. As I left the store, the sun broke through the clouds, that kind of light that makes everything feel softer, more forgiving. I paused for a moment at the door, looking out at the parking lot where it all began. The same asphalt, the same painted lines, but somehow everything looked different now. Sometimes karma doesn't come with thunder. Sometimes it just shows up in a yellow vest, pushing carts under a bright morning sky. It's strange how quickly noise fades when the storm ends. A few weeks after that quiet moment in the store, life found its rhythm again, not the old one, but something softer, steadier. The kind you only earn after chaos. The HOA page, once the center of gossip and war, was quiet now. People posted about lawn sales and missing cats instead of drama. Karen's name had vanished from the threads. Mine too. It was like the neighborhood had collectively decided to forget the whole thing. But I couldn't forget, not completely. Sometimes when I drove past the supermart on my way to a job, I'd see her outside, pushing carts in the cold, head down, hair tucked under that same faded cap. No one jeered. No one mocked. Most just ignored her. And maybe that was the real punishment, not humiliation, but invisibility. The slow realization that the world moves on, with or without your excuses. One Sunday afternoon, after church, Tanya asked if we could stop there for a few groceries. I hesitated, not because I didn't want to go in, but because I wasn't sure if I wanted to see her again. But life doesn't wait for your comfort. We parked, walked inside, and went about our shopping like any other family. Leo ran ahead, picking out cereal with cartoon dinosaurs on the box. Tanya compared prices on coffee. And then, as I turned down the last aisle, there she was again, restocking shelves near the cleaning supplies. She looked thinner, quieter. The spark of defiance that used to live in her eyes had faded into something else. When she noticed me, she straightened, not in defense, but in recognition. "Hi," she said softly. I nodded, "Hey." It was awkward for a moment, but then she gestured to the row of perfectly lined bottles behind her. "They've got me organizing by label color now," she said with a weak laugh. "Guess I'm getting good at it." I smiled faintly. "Looks like you are." There was a pause, the kind that feels heavy, full of words neither of you know how to say. Then she sighed. "You know, I used to think being right was the same thing as being respected. Turns out it's not." I didn't reply right away. I just let the hum of the fluorescent lights fill the silence. Then I said quietly, "Respect isn't something you take, it's what's left when pride leaves the room." Her eyes glistened, but she didn't look away. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "Not just for what I did, for how I thought I could twist things to make myself the victim. I was angry and I wanted someone to blame. You were just standing there." I studied her face, not to judge, but to see if she meant it. And she did. Tanya joined me then, a small basket in hand. She looked between us, then smiled gently. "Hi, Karen." Karen blinked, surprised. "Hi." Tanya held out a folded envelope. "From the store manager. He asked me to give this to you if we saw you." Karen hesitated, then opened it. I could see the logo on the top, Supermart Corporate. Her lips moved as she read. Then she gasped softly. "They're offering me a permanent position," she said, stunned. "Part-time clerk, after the service hours end." Tanya nodded. "Marcus recommended you, said you've been showing up early and staying late." Karen's hand trembled as she lowered the paper. I don't deserve this." Tanya smiled. "Maybe not, but that's what second chances are for." For a long moment the three of us stood there, the air thick with something almost sacred. Not forgiveness exactly, something quieter, acceptance. Karen wiped her eyes and whispered, "Thank you." Then she turned back to her shelves, adjusting a bottle, steadying her hands. We finished our shopping. As we checked out, Brenda waved. "See, peace restored," she said, smiling. Outside, the sunlight was soft, that golden hour light that makes everything look kinder. Leo ran ahead toward the car, holding his cereal like treasure. Tanya linked her arm through mine, leaning her head lightly on my shoulder. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Actually, yeah, I am." We loaded the groceries, the quiet between us comfortable. Before I got in, I looked back at the store one last time. Through the glass doors, I could still see her, that yellow vest moving in and out of the aisles. For some reason, I thought about the first night, the shouting, the fear, the chaos. And now, just stillness. Maybe that's what karma really is. Not punishment, not revenge, just balance finding its way home. As we drove away, the wind rustled through the trees, carrying the faint scent of rain. I glanced at Tanya, then at Leo in the backseat, humming to himself. The world felt small again, ordinary, safe, like a storm that had passed and left everything cleaner behind. Sometimes justice isn't loud. It doesn't come with handcuffs or headlines. Sometimes it's just a simple moment, a nod in an aisle, a quiet apology, a chance to start over. And sometimes that's enough. You've heard this confession, now wait until you hear the next one, the truth that shatters everything you thought you knew.